to stage our Bro-Terra Panel led by Cody Smith and joined by AU founder and presidential diamond Paul Ovens and diamond leaders Clint and Jet Proud.
Clint and I were just talking and both said we were really glad that Diana took the spot right after the Blue Dragon presentation because we were both a little bit of a mess. But it wasn't that both great, Diana and the Blue Dragon. Just so much heartfelt moments. When Sim and Nick and the team came to me and said, hey, we're doing a panel, we're calling it Bro-Terra, it took me back almost 10 years ago when I started at doTERRA, and there was a small group of men that I worked with, and we just kind of jokingly called ourselves Bro-Terra. And so I'm super pleased and grateful to be here with these gentlemen who I admire and respect, and I really feel the brothership and like I'm here with Bro-Terra. I also had one of my employees say that they think we might have the most men we've had at an event in a while. Stand up for just a minute. Thank you guys for coming out. Maybe like many of you, I don't know that we'd all be here without our amazing wives and women and mothers and people who seem to resonate so well with this product. So we're going to get into it a little bit and talk about manhood, talk about the things that matter to us, and each one of these men have wonderful stories to tell. So I just want to start with you, Clint, and I loved getting to know you a little bit as we were preparing for this. Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey? Because I think it's fascinating and something everybody resonates with of what you were doing before doTERRA and how you found your way to doTERRA.
Yeah, thanks. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and it has, like you said, it's been amazing getting to learn about you and share my story. Yeah, and there's a lot of lovely, incredible people here that have helped make my transition into doTERRA the reality. Before doTERRA, I was in the police force in New South Wales. I spent a little bit of my time in around Cronulla and Miranda, and then moved through into the detectives. And then I became a part of the child abuse squad, which, you know, it's a little bit of a icky one to talk about. But it was at that point, around that time, when doTERRA became a huge part of my integration, is what I'd describe it as. As I used to leave work, it started to become this kind of habit where I'd get home and I just would be, you know, I'd carry everything with me. And then Rachel, thank goodness, noticed that. And so she started to help me by supporting me with the oils. Like, oils have always been around for us 10, 12 years now. But to start to use them as a tool and then integrate them into my wellness routine as I transitioned home, that helped change my mental health massively. Like, I don't think, and I know we've spoken of this before, but I don't think had it been for oils and the pathway out of where I was, I would be a shell of the man I am now. There would not be much, I'm the kind of person that throws myself wholeheartedly into what I do, and the police force was one of those roles that I did that. And obviously the child abuse squad is a little bit of a place that's a little dark, but very, very important. And I would have lost myself there if not for the oils and finding a place to step into and transition. A big part of that transition was finding a place in doTERRA, and initially I did struggle with that a bit. having sort of been on the sidelines as the male figure in the business, not really sure where I fit in that space, but then having the ability to attend conventions and attend leadership and see the initiative, just like those co-impact sourcing and the Healing Hands projects, help give me purpose beyond my hat as a police officer. So I could step into this business wholeheartedly knowing that the work I was going to be doing is making just as much as an impact as what I was in my previous role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I love that about you, and I think there's a lot of men who can resonate with that, that sometimes we find ourselves in situations that are heavy, but we're willing to do it when we find purpose and meaning, and we're willing to do it for our families. And so seeing that transition and hearing that from you is a powerful story. I think at times, was there a moment where you felt like there was a need for a transition? Because you mentioned this now and to me earlier, you said you would have kept going until you were a shell of yourself. Was there a moment where you recognized that, or was it not until looking back that you recognized that?
There was definitely moments during the process where, like, you know, I've come from a family with a little bit of domestic violence and a father that gave himself, I would say, more so into his role as a provider. And I felt the pressures of being a provider for my family and, you know, trying to wear all the hats, being the father and trying to raise 3 young men now, and, you know, care for a lovely wife and support her in all of the endeavours that she always embarks upon. But there was a point in there that doTERRA kind of took the place of all of the other things, because there was this, like, she would come home from conventions and come home from leaderships, and I'd have the kids and she'd tell me about all these incredible people that she's met. You've got to meet this beautiful guy, Paul and Vanessa, and all of the guys and girls. And I was so jealous, and I was just like in a real, not in the best space, so I'd just be so blocked off to it. And it wasn't until I got here for myself and experienced it that I felt the culture of doTERRA, and I felt the warmth of the room. And it was something that I knew I could replace where I was with, and I'd be able to find a home in that, you know.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a significant time, but I definitely know, had I not have found this culture and the beautiful people here, I don't know where I'd be, you know.
That's incredible. Actually, it reminded me of a conversation I was having yesterday, and I didn't ask for his permission, so I won't use his name, but I met a gentleman that's here for his first time, and he said that he's been to a lot of conferences before, network marketing and all sorts of things, and he said, I've been in a room with thousands of people before, and I felt alone. But when I came here, I felt like I was among community. So I think there's a lot of people who resonate with that. I hope others feel that. Now, as you transition from the police force in a very structured, organized way, I understand you came into this crazy, amazing world of doTERRA, and my understanding is that you guys took the family on the road, and you lived in a bus for a number of years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. We did. I stepped out. I was fortunate enough that we went to the rank of diamond just the month prior to us setting off for a 12 months leave without pay trip around Australia. Initially we started in the caravan. Little young Ned, our youngest, who's now 8, he was a newborn. Leon was 5 or 6. And yeah, Jet was like turning 10.
Wow.
And we just knew that if we could, well, Rachel had this crazy plan that if she got me out of the police force, I'd never go back. And that was true. Like, I'm so it was definitely one of those things that we made a decision, and like doTERRA provided that vehicle for us to step out of that 9-to-5 rat race, and we had the schooling, we had the medical rooms that we were initially in, and all of the medicines and stuff for Leon, who was very much a pain as a young bloke.
He's saying, no, I wasn't paying.
Like the financial pressures, and then it turned to like community and culture. Like doTERRA replaced all that for us, and it also helped us see that we could take responsibility over those things. So we took responsibility for our kids, we took responsibility for our work, we took responsibility for our health, their education, our education, and I think I said it before, but like doTERRA was like that gateway drug for us into personal development and growth, and I'm forever grateful for having them. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
No, absolutely, you've answered. That's powerful.
That was great.
I want to know from Jet what it was like growing up in a bus, and how that shaped you as a young man.
Well, it was definitely different. Definitely different. Well, I think it shaped me very differently. Like, I think doTERRA, having doTERRA in the home is something I was always very accustomed to. Like, I think you said it the other week. What did you say? I'm like a doTERRA test tube baby. Like I was born like born out of a doTERRA ball, and sometimes that's how it felt. Like, I don't remember a time where oils wasn't the solution to a problem.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What do you lean into with the essential oils? What have you grown up with? Because not all of us grew up with essential oils. What does it mean to you growing up with it?
Well, it means everything. I couldn't imagine my life without it. Well, I can't because I've never had my life without it. But obviously traveling, and I grew up skating. Like, I've had my fair share of like cuts, scrapes, bruises, all that. So I lean very into like the recovery side of things, and now I'm a kickboxer as well. So I'm still doing that. So I lean very much into that side of essential oils. But I really love the whole like stress relief and anxiety prevention side of it as well. Like just sitting side stage there, you know, all the balance, the adaptive, everything. Like we're all oil, what did you say? Oil it up. Oil it up.
barely kicked the mic in my hand.
Yeah, it's probably slipping out of my hand.
Well, that's awesome. So I grew up skateboarding. I played ice hockey, and sports were just a fundamental, still are a fundamental part of my life. What did your mates think about you? What did your friends think when you're bringing these oils out?
Well, I kind of like, they were always there, and like I don't have many friends. I know a lot of people, but I only consider a few of them like friends, and they all know my family's very weird. It's not new to them. Like, it's always been there, and it's always been a part of us. And you know, we come with the oils. Like, we're a reflection of, our family is a reflection of doTERRA and its values. So.
Go, Jet.
We have a saying amongst our corporate team that we want to be a product of the product, and this family is a product of the product.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to kind of stay on this theme and go back to this sense of purpose. And I think, you know, as I've talked to friends and other men, and I know as a father myself, as a husband, and as a man, I think there's few things scarier than feeling like you're stuck, like you might have in the police force, or feeling like you might be lost, or that things are overwhelming your sense of purpose. I'm curious, Paul, have you ever felt a time where you felt like maybe you had lost your sense of purpose? And I need to preface this a little bit because I see you as a man of purpose. And I think a lot of people would think that and see you as a man of purpose. And one thing I've learned about great men is it doesn't come easy. Has there ever been a time where you felt like maybe there wasn't a clear sense of purpose? And how do you find that purpose again?
I think life, you know, as we get older and hopefully a little more experienced, it continues to throw those moments at you where you have this sense of, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right place? Am I with the right people? So, you know, I've felt that many times actually. And even in our doTERRA journey, in our doTERRA business, there are times where I feel, am I as connected and driven to this as I once was? And I've got to find something that, recenters me, because we do drift, we do have outside influences and outside forces, and, right now I have a lot of time with my father who's recently had a stroke, so that's kind of been a force that makes you drift a little bit, and sometimes a little off centre, or maybe towards the centre, depending on what your view of it is, right? So yeah, I've definitely felt those moments, and I lean into some of my core doTERRA products too that are just my anchors. I'm not like Vanessa, who uses everything that doTERRA actually sells. But I've got quite a few that are staples for me and to drag me back to my centre, for sure.
Can you share with us maybe one, if you had to pick one, what's the one that centers you and brings you back?
LLV, every time. My experience was when Vanessa had already started in doTERRA. At that time, that was 11 years ago, I just lost my younger brother to suicide, and my dad and myself were the ones to find him in his shed in the back of his home. And at that time, he had an 11-year-old and a 6-week-old, 2 girls. And after that was the first time I ever felt myself going downhill emotionally. I'd never really understood it before. I think we live in the best country in the world. I think we have amazing safety nets. We can have somewhere to live and food provided for us, no matter how bad we kind of make our lives just about, if we want to access those services. So I never really understood or had much of a brush with emotional or mental health until then. But I did find myself going downhill, and right around that time, I met some people. Actually met a dear friend, Adish, at that time, and I started using, here he is. I started using LLV, and within a few weeks, I was just back to my best self. And for those of you who know me, I can obviously hang a sentence out if you put a microphone in my hand. But at that time, I could barely find words. I couldn't speak, I couldn't sleep, I wasn't showing up in life the way I was supposed to, or the way I wanted to. I wasn't really there for my wife and the way I wanted to be as a husband to my own kids. And then within just weeks, and I don't know if this is going to create compliance problems for you, but they won't be my problems. It just made such a difference. And my opinion of that product since then has been that if we give the body everything that it needs, that it can actually heal itself of anything. It's been designed that way.
Amen. Yes. I love that. As we've gone through this, you guys have mentioned products and things, but something that I think is standing out, resonating, is you've all pointed to people, family, friends, connections, and sometimes, I think somebody said it the other day, sometimes we wish we had this one magic thing that would fix everything, but really doTERRA enhances the best part of life, and so it's the connection, it's the people that really come even before product and everything else. I want to get into a little bit of this. Clint, you work with an organization, it's called Building Young Men, is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that organization, what you experience and what that organization's about?
Yeah, so the organization is founded by a friend of mine. He actually runs the Man Walk, which is, a national kind of charity, but the Building Young Men component is a little rites of passage program for young, sort of 16-year-old, year 10 male students at high schools. It's a little pilot program at the moment down in Kiama, down in southern New South Wales, where we're around. And the idea behind that is to help 16-year-olds transition from young kind of boys in through a challenge, and then emerging from the challenge as a young man. It's over 16 weeks, and we get to participate in like a few hours of their day on every Wednesday, where we go in and we'll conduct like a little activity and then sit in circle, and we'll have a topic for the week, and it'll go through like mother and father and friend relationships and women relationships and what it means to be a man, all that sort of stuff. And there's a few challenges throughout the process. So we just participated in a 24-hour challenge where we walked around Wynn Stadium, the local football team's stadium, for 24 hours, and we've done, I think it was 60-something thousand steps and 50 kilometres, so in the 24 hours. And yeah, it's just something that is, the initiative behind this was Kiama during the COVID period had about, I believe it was 8 suicides through young men and women in their school and the neighbouring area, all as a result of, you know, you could attribute that to a lot of things, but my friend of mine, and it's been a big thing that I've been able to help support him in, is hoping to combat that and help give young men a pathway to overcome difficult challenges and face the world as young men, which I think that's what kind of I've tried to do with our boys the best I could, was create, in conjunction with my lovely wife, a pathway to help guide young men. I mean, that's the whole objective of us leaving, you know, the norm of society and school and all that sort of stuff, was to try and create a pathway that they could step through to become young men in this world, so they could show up, be great humans, which they are, thrive in their skills, and come out the other side young men capable of navigating the world with purpose and intention.
Every time you talk about it, I can't help but, you know, wish I could have been a part of that when I was 16 years old. I'm curious, what are some of the themes or things that, as you meet with these young men, that they're concerned about in the world? I think, you know, we can all remember being young, but what are the things, and there's a lot of mothers and fathers here in this room, what are the young people today concerned about as they come to that program?
Yeah, there's a lot. They're all, you know, varying kind of developmentally, you know, what they will contribute to the group and stuff like that, but a lot of them, there's a lot of disconnect today that I find is a common theme throughout it all. There's a lot of disconnect, even though we're more connected technologically than ever. There's a disconnection in the family environment where the kids are kind of on their own, you know, separated from the family unit. They're not having dinner at dinner tables, they're not having conversations, they're not going places together on car trips. Everyone's in their own little bubble, and the screens and algorithms that are there to help, you know, make their phone the best option, and things like that are really helping to separate the unit. So when they come in and they talk about, you know, what's going on for them, it's in a circle. It's a small circle. They've got a ball, which is the talking stick, and they get to contribute as little or as much as they like. But just being there and able to hold a conversation with some framework to help encourage conversation, it's they get to open up and express all these types of things, and yeah, it helps me probably more than it helps them, but it's great, it's important.
That's amazing. I wish we had like 2 days to talk about just men and men's health and everything else. This is incredible. I want to know, Jet, as a 17-year-old, I've got a 5-year-old son, and I worry about what his future is for him. What would you tell somebody who's maybe a little bit older than him, maybe 10 or 12, and hearing about the chaos and the craziness of the world? What do they have to look forward to in life?
I'd say they have life itself to look forward to. They have mistakes to look forward to, because you learn from your mistakes. You know, a lot of people shy away from challenge because it's hard, but it's an opportunity to grow. Like me coming up here, I didn't think I'd be up here. Funny story, Mum got the call and accepted it for me, but we won't be there. It's all right, I'm happy to be here, I swear. I'm happy to be here. But yeah, challenge is, you know, something important, so don't be afraid of it. That's what I'd tell someone.
I love the way that you frame that. You frame challenges and mistakes in a positive way of growth, which I think it's sometimes hard. We look at challenges like there's something to shy away from. There's a quote, you guys have probably heard this, I'm gonna butcher it, so my apologies, but it goes something along the lines of this, that hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make hard times. And those hard times make strong men. I see Clint and Paul, I see both of you as very strong men, and I've also seen and heard from the stories you've shared with your own son's successes. And so as strong men paving a way, what are you doing? And I'll pass it over to you, Paul. What kinds of things you focus on? What do you do to make sure that that your sons have the opportunity to be strong men in a world that maybe they have the opportunity at times to shy away from challenge?
Yeah, I think it's there's probably never been a time in human history where it's been more important for young men to have great examples to rise up into, and to have a brotherhood, you know, that they can lean into, because it is an easy path to sort of feel alone and be separate, as Clint was just saying. And you know, I think this environment we're in creates a space where you can feel really connected with people of, you know, that you can just get behind, and people that you just aspire to be. I mean, you know, Clint and his family are just some of my favourite humans in the world. You know, Cody, he's younger than me, but I look up to Cody. You know, I love what he brings, and
I look up
the
to
man,
you. It's a great
the man that he is.
partnership.
Thanks. So, yeah, to what do? I mean, we create connection, and I think, you know, something that I try to emulate from what Clint brings as a father is to be present as much as I can be. And my natural response is to not. I'm kind of like a mental multitasker, so I've got stuff going on all over the place sometimes. But to find moments where you can be truly present, and there isn't the screens and there isn't those things. So, like Clint, I had the opportunity to take my son away for 5 days off-grid in a making of men's camp, where it's a rites of passage ritual to be able to deepen the connection, create the space for real conversation, talk about those important relationships in life, like a son's relationship with his mother, a son's relationship with his father, what's working in that, what's not working in that, and to normalise these kind of conversations. And the guy that runs this, for anyone who's interested, Dr. Arne Rubenstein, this is in kind of New South Wales, he runs these camps, an amazing thing to do with a young man. But he tells us that he takes his sons every single year away for a week where it's just him and his sons. And there's no phones, there's no anything like that. And I thought, that's the best idea I've heard, and I'm going to do that. And I've been doing that. You know, I go away with my son and we go snowboarding, or we go whatever we do something together. But in that time, it allows him to let society and its expectations of how he should be drop away, and then the truth comes out. And we get to have real conversations. And I ask him questions like, tell me something I don't know about you. Tell me something that you haven't told me before. And then we just talk for a few hours. And it's that's an amazing thing. So bringing a level of presence, I think, is probably more important for young men that senior men can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. When I heard you share that with, over the phone, I was like, I've got to do that with my son. He's now 5, and it's in the plans to have those father-son trips. I do want to touch on something that I look up to all 3 of you in this regard. It's something that brings purpose to my life, and you mentioned brings purpose to your life. But that is service. And Jet, I know you've been involved in a lot of service, and sometimes as a young man, it's not cool to serve, or it's not fun to serve. There's so many other things. Can you talk a little bit about the service that you've been involved in? Maybe share some of the things that you and your family have done and what it's meant to you as a young man.
So recently we've been participating in the packing days with the Esca Bags, which is a service for women and children of domestic violence. I love going in there and helping the ladies out at Esca Bags. Like, they're great people and they do amazing things, and they've got amazing stories. Yeah.
Can you see the pride in the Father's eyes. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can feel it.
Yeah, well, yeah, there is a bit of a stereotype that it can be boring, that it isn't cool, you know, and I also think there's a little bit of a stereotype that domestic violence is something, especially in young men, that domestic violence is something that is out of our reach, you know, unless you're law enforcement or someone important or an abuser yourself, you can't stop abuse. That's the stereotype. But Escobags is a great vehicle into being involved in the solution. Like, you get to go in there and you get to learn about domestic violence, its effects, and what you can do to be a part of the solution. Not only do you get to go in there and learn about it, you get to be involved in the solution. They give you the opportunity to pack the escape bags for women and children domestic violence and send them off. Like, that's a pretty powerful thing. So to anyone who thinks it's boring, I've had people, like, there was a clip that was posted, and they like filmed me and Dad talking, which I'm pretty sure is how we got the opportunity to be here. But yeah, that clip, I reposted it on my Instagram, and I got a couple of people saying that, like, is service boring, blah, 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 like all the stereotypes, all the typical stuff. And I just told them, give it a try, you know, and you'll see how powerful it is. You'll see you'll leave there feeling important and like you've done something.
I don't know if I've met a more introspective young man, and I can feel that passion and that's just amazing, and I can feel the pride as a father and see it in your eyes. I'm so grateful for this time we've been able to spend. Maybe in closing, if you don't mind, Clint, you shared this with me just off stage, so I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, but I think it's a good kind of wrap up, and you shared a blend with me that you have, but more importantly, you talked about the sandalwood and the connection, and I think it's a great analogy to what we've heard, the connection with young men, the connection with community. Can you share a little bit about that? Because when you shared it, it just came from the heart, and it was special.
So I've got a blend in my pocket I made for what was initially for me, but it's kind of blown out a little bit. I tend to share it around everywhere, but it's a brotherhood blend, and it's made up of frankincense, sandalwood, cedarwood, vetiver, and some Madagascar vanilla, just because it smells beautiful. But the reason behind the sandalwood is we got to participate in, like, you know, the whole thing for me is my place here is in the value in that co-impact sourcing and the healing hand stuff. It's something I love getting behind, and we got to go participate in the Connemara sandalwood, you know, sourcing little trip, and that was it was amazing. Lovely PJ and Urin, he's got to come along, and it was just amazing. So sandalwood always has had a lovely little place in my heart, and I've heard this spoken before with, I believe Adam's done a lovely talk on sandalwood, so I've grabbed a little bit of his analogies. So the sandalwood tree requires 20 years for doTerra's harvest. It's around a 20-year growth. So that whole period requires host trees for the sandalwood to thrive. In order for it to get all its nutrients, its roots have to go out and grab hold of other roots and absorb the nutrients through them. Not only that, it requires a number of different host trees throughout its lifetime. So it's kind of emblematic to what we do as men. We kind of use community, we reach out and grab hold of people and find mentors. And mentors will develop and change over time. So the sandalwood for me really brings that home. And not only that, the sandalwood there has the heart oil, which is what we harvest for our oil. And when we ask them there, like, how does this heart oil grow? What makes a good tree? And they're like, well, we don't really know what makes the best trees. However, we know if the tree doesn't go through seasonally these real adverse conditions, then the heart oil won't form as well. So the trees that have gone through the worst seasons form the most heart oil. And so, like us humans and men, unless we go through difficult things, we aren't going to grow and produce the best results. So, yeah, that's what Sam is.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that the brothership blend. I think it's a perfect analogy and a perfect close to this. Again, I wish I had more time with all of you. I've asked them if they don't mind sharing their details. So if you'd like to connect with any of these amazing men here on the stage and learn more about what they're doing with young men, learning how they're connecting and how they're supporting and being that connection piece, I think there's a need more than ever before, not only for our young men, but also for fathers and the older men to have that connection. So can we get another round of applause for these amazing men?
Please welcome back to stage Alex DeBell.